All right, so let's look at the solution for the second challenge in the collections module under importing. All right, so I'm just going to throw into here a description of the problem. Write a function that finds the 5 most common words in a string. You will need to clean the string so the punctuation is stripped in case doesn't matter. There may be a method associated with the container you use that may simplify this task, so look up the Python documentation. I'm not going to jump into the documentation offhand, but this is going to use, well, we can use a counter here. And, I'm just going to say from collections, import counter. And if you remember, counter is sort of a dictionary paradigm that allows you to build counts very quickly from some data. So let's think of, let's see, 5 most common words in a string. I'm just going to find, I'm just going to get something off of Wikipedia really quick to use as a string, and I'll throw that in here. I'm just going to hit random on Wikipedia and copy that in. Okay. All right. Just going to grab a paragraph about a Dutch painter. All right, he was born at Haarlem. All right, so this is just some paragraph. I'm going to sign that. We'll set that aside for later. And, in general, if you're trying to write something, write a function, you're going to, write a test. So let me copy in our placeholder code, and we'll take a look at the doc string. Def 5 most common of some string, right? So finds the 5 most common words in a string, parameters, string, right? So that's what that is, it's a string. And it returns the 5 most common words. Fair enough. All right, so we need to clean the string of punctuation. So why don't we do that first? The first thing, well, you know what? If case doesn't matter, then I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of string. Oh, lower is going to get string.copy, or sorry, string.lower. In fact, I shouldn't use lower like that. I should do name it something that isn't the same namespace, even though it doesn't matter in this case. This is a function, this is a variable. I shouldn't ever risk name collision. It's just a bad practice. So I'm going to take kind of I'm going to take an approach here that is going to overwrite a cleaned version of the string. And there are faster ways to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it this way just to be really explicit. So clean, which is going to be the name of my cleaned string, is going to get lowered, and I'm going to just, one by one, I'm going to replace these punctuations with, right, I'm replacing a period with an empty string. So that's that. And I'm going to do this for question marks. I'm just copy pasting here. This is an easy way to go about this. Let's scroll down a little bit. All right, so this is going to be question mark and exclamation point. And let's do a comma. And I don't know why I'm doing 2-space tabbing here. Let me just go ahead and make this 4-space. There we go. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to make a counts dictionary. And, oops, let me scroll back down. I'm going to make a dictionary called counts. Maybe I'll do counts D. And this is going to be a counter. Counter of clean. And I'm going to do clean.split. And maybe before I do that, you know what? Let me call this function and kind of show you what our output looks like right now. So I'm just going to print clean, and then I've got this paragraph that you know, he was born at Harlem, etc., etc. And I'm going to call the function, which is called 5 most common, and I'm going to call it on paragraph. So 5 most common on paragraph. And why don't we see what that does? Python. And you can't see all of this over here, but we've basically removed all of the common punctuation. And it turns out that there is some stuff we haven't removed, namely these brackets, but we're not concerned about that in terms of passing the tests on Learn. So I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this counts dictionary, and then I will. So now let's print the counts dictionary, and just take a look at what that looks like. Now, if I run this again, I'm going to save it, clear this, we'll run it, and notice we get something that looks a lot like a dictionary. Counter, there's 15, the occurs 15 times, and occurs 8 times, of occurs 8 times, to. So the words that we would expect to be common, we're seeing that. We're seeing that's actually the case. So that's nice. Now, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this function, right, where we're trying to return the 5 most common words in this string. Give us a little space here, scroll down a little bit. So we're looking at this up front. Now, what I can do is I can pull out the key value pairs here. And counter has a nice method in it called most common. So normally I would write this as a comprehension, but for our purposes here, I'm just going to say for word and count in counts d dot most common, and we want 5 of those, right? Just a regular for loop. I'm going to, well, I need an accumulator, so I'm going to put that here, and I'll just call it most common. I don't want it, again, I don't want to make a name collision. Commonest. That works. It's not a real word, but whatever. Okay, so commonest is going to get, let's see. Well, we can just append word. We can just append the word, right? Because that's all we need, right? The 5 most common words in order. And we're assuming this is a list. So why don't I do that? And I'll return commonest. And yeah, if I run this, oh, I need to actually print the output. So let me just print 5 most common, and let's find out how that does. The and of to he. So that's kind of nice. Notice here on line 26, I've only appended the word here, and count never gets used. So I don't actually need this. I could do that. Like the underscore is a common way to say, well, I'm not going to actually use this. The only reason I'm doing it this way is that most common actually returns a tuple. But, you know, let's just say word count. And I'm going to throw this into Learn and just verify for myself that it is running the way that I would expect. And that it will actually pass the tests. I'm not going to show that. I'm just throwing it in, and it does. It actually does pass the test. So hopefully that helps clarify any understanding of this problem, right? So just to walk back through it, the first thing I'm doing is I'm lowering the string. Then I'm replacing the common punctuation that we would see, and then I'm using a counter, and I'm putting the split string, which is then in a list format. I'm putting that into the counter, and the counter is giving me a counter dictionary, right, or counter type. and then I'm taking the most common words and packing them in. Um, Something I'm just going to do really quick, I'm going to refactor this so it's a comprehension. Don't worry about comprehensions too much yet. We're going to come across those a lot more in the future, either in future lessons or when you get to the DSI. For now, just regard comprehensions as another way to write a for loop. So in this case, I'm just going to say word for word and count. Oops, not for forward, for word and count in counts.most common, and it's going to take 5 of those. Notice this is just really clean, and it's nice for that reason. So why don't I run that one more time, and name counts is not defined. Counts dictionary. Counts D is the actual name. Let's run that again. D and of to E does the same thing. Um, you know, get into comprehensions if you're interested, but make sure your for loops are solid first. And yeah, hope that's been helpful.